In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Thursday, September 29th, and this is the FLAFFL House Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Cotillo. You can find me on Twitter or on the Fantasy Life app as @WallyCentral. I have Steve Marcus here with me.
Hey, Kev.
Actually, not really here with me, huh?
No, I'm
Kinda
not
just
there.
On the line.
Only in spirit.
Only in spirit.
That's right.
That's nice. I appreciate that. You can find him on both the Fantasy Life app and Twitter as @SidSkeet. We appreciate the convenience there, Steve.
Hey, no problem.
And as usual, we have Mr. Sal Lito. What's going on, Sal?
Go ahead. You want to say something stupid like I have two different names on two different things? Go ahead. I
was going to let you tell the people.
That's right, people. I was on Twitter before Fantasy Life app existed, and they gave me a stupid handle that was my last name and then my first name. So on Twitter, you can get me at @LitoSal. And on the Fantasy Life app, as always, Sal33. Hi, fellers.
So I'm sure you're going to get tons of followers from that rant. That people are probably dying.
People like angry people.
Oh.
And you can also change that.
They've
updated that feature since Twitter's come out.
No, I got to change the batteries, I think.
Just so everyone knows, you can follow the show itself on Twitter as @Falafel House, and you can stop by and see us all in the Falafel League chat on the Fantasy Life app. If you don't have the Fantasy Life app already, you should definitely check it out because I think we're helping people every day, right, guys? I mean, it's how we help you win your fantasy league. We have a lot of people coming in and asking us questions. It's been pretty crazy on the app lately, so it's a good time. Check it out. Get it wherever you get your apps.
Yeah, yes. I'll be honest with you. There is no way that anybody answers more questions a day on Twitter than we answer a day in Fantasy Life app. It is literally 7 to 8 questions a minute that come in almost nonstop. It's out of control, but it's great. It's crazy. We love it. If you're a fantasy nut, get in there.
And I would just like to say real quick, we have actually had the name of the chat has been officially changed. I don't know if anyone noticed that. But,
obviously not.
That's right. It has just been changed to Falafel House. So it used to be Falafel League because the chat was started when the league was created. And now, since it's grown into a little family, we've changed it. It is now the Falafel House to match up with everything else. So there's
was that your little bonus thing you were going to tell us?
No, and then what else I was going to say, that this is actually our 50th episode tonight.
Whoa.
Reached the big 5-0.
Wow.
That's right.
So I wish you had actually told us that beforehand, because I'm certain that Sal would have provided some kind of musical interlude that included lyrics instead of just the trumpets.
The mouth kazoo.
I feel bad because you watch your tongue, son. I feel bad because I forgot to get either one of you guys something.
Yeah, you should feel bad because my present's in the mail.
As is mine.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Wow.
I do regret bringing that up now.
Yeah, you should. Let's never talk about milestones again.
Yes, they are useless.
We got a lot to get into tonight. As usual on our Thursday show, we are going to get right to the games and cover the news as we go because there are so many games to get into, although there are bye weeks this week. Just a reminder, Philadelphia and Green Bay, thank you, are both on the bye week. So if you have those guys in your roster and you haven't taken them out yet, you probably want to do that. I know that those bye weeks have personally put Steve in a bad position already.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Those larger leagues where depth is somewhat of an issue, I'm feeling the burn this week. So I'll be happy, much happier.
Who's your starting running back?
Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy.
No. I meant who's actually in your line.
Yeah, I should have been Eddie Lacy even though he's on the bye week. But
right now, he has the same amount of points as your actual starter.
Yeah, I've got a Kenyon Drake in there, and
Who are you playing against?
I'm playing against Sal this week. I'm not liking my chances, but you know what? That's why we play the game. That's why we've been training so hard, and I've been practicing so hard, and looking for that to pay off on the field on Sunday.
Listen, if it makes you feel any better, my wife asked who she should play between Fozzie Whitaker, Kenyon Drake, or Terrence West, and I told her Drake, which I think is still the right call, but obviously not since he has no points.
Yeah, it's looking rough right now.
That's not even close to the right call. You should be fired from being a husband.
Who would you go with in that scenario? She asked
Fozzie Whitaker.
In the app, by the way.
She did not tag her favorite FLAFFLer.
Obviously. Well,
I would have went with Fozzie Whitaker, and when we get to that game, I'm going to tell you exactly why.
All right. Well, let's get straight to the games then and get started, because no one really wants to hear us talk about our misery as in the games or in our current matchups. So let's start off. There is London football this week, boys.
Woo!
Yes, I know Steve's excited. I'm excited as well. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, you can get football this week. The Jaguars are technically the home team at 0-3. The Colts are 1-2, and they are all in London. I'm not sure how this game's going to go, because both of these teams, the Jags are terrible on offense and the Colts are terrible on defense. So I'm not exactly sure what we're going to see here. The Jags offense is 28th in points, 26th in yards, 31st in rushing yards, and they have one rushing touchdown. But playing against a Colts defense should ail them a little bit, I would think, because the Colts are flat out terrible. Meanwhile, the Colts offense, 7th in points, 12th in yards, 9th in passing yards, but they cannot really run the ball very well, because they're 25th in rushing yards. They do have 6 passing touchdowns. So overall, I think you're going to see a lot of offense in this game. It's my own personal opinion. I think both teams are going to score. I like the Jags receivers in this one. I'm not typically very high on Hearns, but I think I would be in this game. So that's kind of my first recap. Not a lot of news going on as far as these two teams. Moncrief is still out, and I think we should see both Ivory and Yeldon in this. So. What do you think, Steve? What's your prediction for this game?
I think it's going to be a somewhat pretty high scoring game. Like you said, the defenses are both having trouble. What I'm going to be looking at mostly is the Jacksonville wide receivers. Like you said, that is their strength on offense. But oddly enough, the Colts secondary have not given up a passing touchdown to a wide receiver yet this season. So it'll be interesting to see. We had Allen Robinson had those 2 touchdowns last week. If that jump started him and gets him going, Allen Hearns, one of those guys that you just mentioned, had a huge season last year and has really not done much at all this season. So I'll be looking to see what they can do, and then also seeing if the Jaguars are able to get that run game going. They've got Ivory and they've got Yeldon, who we actually got ranked higher of the 2, and the Colts got that 31 ranked rush defense. So I think that if Jacksonville is going to try to run the ball down their throat and hopefully get a lead and be able to control the clock. But I think there's going to be some points going on for sure.
Roy, I'm really looking forward to this game myself, because I Joe want to go over to London, and I'm excited.
Oh my God!
Wow, I don't even know what that was. Is that a British?
I'd have to lean towards Scottish, if anything.
Yeah, definitely. That was the worst impersonation in the history of podcasting. So piggybacking onto what Steve said, the Colts are terrible at run defense, and what they are really, really bad at is giving up receptions to running backs. They have given up 22 receptions for 213 yards and 2 touchdowns. They give up 28.1 fantasy points a game to running backs. So that means both of these guys are good plays, and especially Yeldon, because he's going to be getting balls thrown in his direction. And to your point, Kevin, they are defending the pass better this year, the Colts, but the secondary receivers in the games are getting more action than the the number one receiver. So Devontae Adams had 3 catches, 50 yards and a touchdown, and Tyrell Williams had 3 catches, 61 yards and a touchdown. So I'm expecting this to actually be a good Philip Dorsett day. And if I have Philip Dorsett, this is the week I want to get him in, probably in my flex.
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see where we have Dorsett as far as the rankings. I think we have 37 overall. Sally, you are the highest on him at 29. Steve, you do not like Dorsett this week. You got him at 49th. What's your beef with Dorsett?
Yeah, he's no Moncrief. That's what it is. He's not Dante Moncrief. I mean, he came in last week as, a lot of people thought he was going to get a lot of work. He was going to step into that Moncrief role, and it just didn't end up panning out for him. Now, I know that's only one game, so I looked like they're getting their tight ends involved a lot. You got a lot of passes to Dwayne Allen and quite a few to Jack Doyle as well. And then T.Y. Hilton was getting a lot of targets. He had his huge game. So I would like to see Philip Dorsett have another good game before I move him up anymore and before I'm going to start him. Last week was enough to scare me away from him and to want to see it for a week before I trust him again.
Yeah, I think with these defenses both being as bad as they are, you want to get all your wide receivers in there. We actually you guys both have T.Y. Hilton as a top 10 play. I have him at 14, so we're 12 consensus ranking. So definitely look to get your anyone who's catching passes in this game in. I think that's pretty much the bottom line. Any further thoughts on the Colts-Jaguars? Who do you guys think wins?
Colts. I think the Colts win.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll
actually.
I'll
say this: I have a profile picture bet on the Fantasy Life app with Cheesy that the Colts will score at least 35 points in this game.
What's the over under there, Steve, a resident gambler?
Well, I can say that although I do enjoy looking at the lines, I do not memorize them all off the top of my head.
All right.
So the over-under for that is 49.5.
49.5. Yeah. Well, I think 35 is probably right around the line, though. I don't think that's far off, Sal.
Give me the under.
Really?
With the jet lag.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, the London games do tend to be a little hindered, but I don't know. These teams are both so bad at defense. I see a lot of points. All right, the 1-2 Titans will take on the 2-1 Texans, who were just basically undressed by my New England Patriots last Thursday. It's 1 p.m. Eastern, obviously in Houston. Big news out of Houston is the J.J. Watt heading to the IR with the back injury. Couple of little notes on the Titans wide receivers with Tajay Sharp limited in practice. Meanwhile, Kendall Wright might actually be making his debut this week. I don't know if that matters to anyone except in some seriously deep leagues. Neither team really can score very well. The Titans are at 31st and the Texans are 32nd in points scored, and they're both bottom third in the league in yards. Neither of them can pass. At least the Titans are running the ball well. Titans do only have one rushing touchdown though, and Houston has none. A lot of angst for Lamar Miller owners because he is getting the volume, but he's not necessarily doing much with it. Steve, what are your thoughts there? I know you're a big Lamar Miller supporter.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm going to be looking at and paying attention to the most. You mentioned he's averaging almost 25 carries a game, which is just crazy. But he's only got 3.6 yards per carry. It's the lowest of his career. He has yet to score a touchdown. And this week we've got him ranked as running back 9 on our FLAFFL ranks, and that is the lowest that he's been for us combined collectively all season. And I was going to ask you guys if that is purely based on the matchup because they're facing the Titans, who do have a very strong run defense right now, or are you taking the fact that he's been struggling so far into account with that?
For me, it's definitely a combination of the two. He's got 84 total touches through 3 games. There's no way he could sustain that the whole season. So I think they have to find a way to relieve him during games. He left last Thursday night with a knee injury. He came back into the game, but there's no way he's built to take that kind of a pounding.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think you guys know I was a little further down on him coming into the season than you guys were. I didn't see him being able to hold up under this kind of volume. And I honestly thought they would try to manage it a little bit more, not quite the way the Dolphins did, but obviously a little bit more than they have so far. I think the workload's got to decrease in order for him to be effective. There's some guys in the league that are very talented, but perform better with a lower volume of work. I mean, Jamal Charles in his prime is a guy that certainly comes to mind as someone who, you see 15 touches and he's still getting, the same amount of volume of yardage and production as a guy who gets 25. So I actually fully believe that Lamar Miller is one of those guys, and I think they need to limit him in order for him to be productive. So
the guy I'm looking to see get back on track this week is Will Fuller. Last week, Crabtree, as the number 2 wide receiver going against this Tennessee defense, caught 8 passes for 102 yards. He performed better than Amari Cooper did. So I'm thinking I'm getting Will Fuller in the flex position this week. And I am not looking at any wide receivers at all on the Tennessee side. Kevin, you spoke about them a little bit earlier. The Texans are 4th defending wide receivers in fantasy this year. Tajay Sharp is banged up already. The coaches actually came out and said he's regressed. If you were smart enough to move him right away, and you probably got some good value for him. If not, it looks like you're going to maybe have a struggling rookie on your hands for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's what it is too. You mentioned obviously a struggling rookie. I think that's what it is. I think you're going to see ups and downs with him. I still think there's a lot of upside there. But we talked about it coming into the season too, and obviously they got rid of Dorial Green-Beckham, but it's a crowded wide receiving core that you don't really know who's going to step up, and particularly with Kendall Wright coming back, you still have Rashard Matthews there. They love to use the tight ends, and
How
the way
would
they're
you
running
not
the
say
ball.
Andre Johnson?
And Andre Johnson, even more so. It's just a muddled, wide receiver core. You really don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how you can trust any of them. And on top of that, they just haven't performed. And Mariota really just doesn't look like a guy that has command of the offense right now. So
he's not even ownable in fantasy football to me right now.
No.
Mariota, who was a guy who was a pleasant surprise actually last year in fantasy football for anybody who grabbed him, but he's not ownable right now unless you're in a 2 QB league, and even then should be a third option.
Yeah, he's our 25th ranked quarterback this week, and he'll probably be there most weeks until he starts to show some sort of progression. Clearly, Jameis Winston winning the battle of the 1-2s right now.
That's weird because Carson Wentz is also winning that battle early as well.
Yep. Although I would say the Andrew Luck is certainly winning the.
Yes, I was about to say RG3 is losing at most things.
Yes. So
how did Ryan Leaf do?
Yeah, well, that worked out well. I think he's still in prison.
Yeah, I was gonna say when's visitation.
Yeah.
Not very
so
nice. We should move on.
It's not. We're going to move on. Speaking of the Browns, the 0-3 Browns are taking on the 1-2 Washington football team in Washington at 1 p.m. Josh Gordon announced today that he is going to step away from football to enter a full-time rehab facility. And, clearly commend the guy for making a decision like that to take care of his life. I think it's probably, obviously he knows what's best for him, and it's good that the team's supporting him. From a fantasy perspective, I think it certainly hurts a lot of people who took flyers on him. Hopefully they didn't spend too much on him or draft too high, but weren't counting on him because they knew he was going to be out for 4 games. But hopefully he gets his life on track. And Sal, you and I had this conversation, offline here that, you think he might be back because of the talent level. So I'd love to see it. We hope for the best for the guy, but for now, it looks like I think his season might be done. So
yeah, but to that point, it was definitely not back this season. I don't think he'll be back this season. I think he comes back next year. The guy's super talented. He came back this year after a big layoff and showed that he could still get downfield and still make acrobatic catches. So I don't think another couple of months off will hurt him from that standpoint. He's got to get done what he needs to get done. And I think that if it's not the Browns, the way the NFL is, somebody will give him a shot if he's cleaned up.
Yeah, it sounds like reports coming out from Cleveland right now that it's most likely not the Browns. I mean, we'll see. But so you're absolutely right. Someone will give them a shot, and hopefully it'll work out. So, um, as far as the game's concerned, Washington's middle of the pack as far as points scored, but fifth overall in yards. But they have a minus 24 point differential right now.
Yeah.
Hence the 1-2 record. They're only better in that category than Chicago, Jacksonville, and of course Cleveland, who has a minus 30. Um, you know, Obviously the breakout star last week for Cleveland was Terrell Pryor. He was a huge waiver wire ad. I'm sure. I don't know if either of you guys were able to grab him, but he was the hot pickup this week because of his large game, both receiving and quarterback, and I think he even played safety.
Yeah, he's doing everything.
Guys all over the field, and he's obviously got some talent. The thing with Terrell Pryor for me, it's just you're not going to see games like that every week, and I think it's going to be really hard to predict when he's going to have a big game and when he's not, and he's going to be limited by Cody Kessler. I mean, he flat out is. The quarterback points help you, but if you look at what he did, I mean, most leagues give 1 point for 25 yards. So what did he get you? 1.5 from being a quarterback. I mean, I know that it looks great that he's getting an extra positions value, but that's really not a lot of value to me.
Listen, I agree with you. I have no stock of him anywhere. I just didn't think that. Well, I wouldn't have gotten him based on my waiver claims anyway. But I agree with you. I don't feel like this is a legitimate, even wide receiver 2 on a weekly basis right now. And the only thing I will say is he was able to run the Wildcat out of the quarterback position, which did lead to a rushing touchdown. So, you have that benefit to it. But, yeah, I'm not ready to say Terrell Pryor is here to take the league by storm. I think people are going crazy over it right now, but I'm not completely on board.
Yeah,
I see the talent. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say I feel the same way. I didn't end up getting him anywhere. I didn't pick him up. I just is one of those guys that I don't know if the consistency is going to be there week to week.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland's 26th overall in points scored. They have 2 passing touchdowns on the season. And, I mean, McCown could be back in 2 to 4 weeks now. They're thinking it might be a little earlier than they originally thought. So maybe that helps out because, McCown can throw it downfield. I think he can push the ball a little bit. So, and that Pryor's specialty is the deep ball, although he is showing a little bit extra. So, there's value there. I didn't spend any big waiver priority on him. So, but a lot of people did. So, as far as the game's concerned, Steve, your guy, Kirk Cousins, in my mind, looks terrible. So, what are your thoughts there? What's going on with Kirk?
He looked a little better last week against the Giants, but you're right. He's looked terrible, especially in the red zone. He's thrown a lot of interceptions, which is something he didn't do quite as much last year. But for this week, I think you're going to see them get back on track. He seems to be a very streaky quarterback. It seems to be very confidence-driven. So last week, getting that win in New York, I think is going to do wonders. And then being able to go back home and face this soft Cleveland defense, I think it does wonders. He's been mentioned as a good streaming option. You've got Aaron Rodgers on a bye week this week. So I definitely would pick him up to stream if you're in that type of need. And as far as the other Washington players goes, you're starting Jordan Reed. I'd start Deshaun Jackson. And even Matt Jones, we've got ranked as a lower running back too. He's looked okay, but I just think he's going to have a lot of volume this week. So I think most of the major names on Washington's team are going to be startable this week.
So let me ask you guys, who do you consider to be the number 1 wide receiver in Washington?
I mean, it's Deshaun Jackson, I guess.
I mean, for upside, it's Deshaun Jackson. But, I mean, for lowest floor or highest floor, he's got to be Crowder. Yeah.
So the Browns are 31st against wide receivers in fantasy. They've given up 38 receptions, 578 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And to number 1 wide receivers, they've given to Jordan Matthews 7 for 114 and a touchdown, Mike Wallace 4 for 41 and 2 touchdowns, and Jarvis Landry 7 for 120 and a touchdown. So obviously the number 1 wide receiver in this offense, in whatever offense is playing and find success. Crowder actually leads with 25 targets, but Jackson's right behind him at 23. And believe it or not, Garcon is right behind him at 20. So if you got any one of these three guys, you might want to play him because I don't know who's the actual number one right now, but they're going to definitely find success. And go ahead.
No, what's interesting about those three receivers you mentioned going against the Browns as being number one receivers is they're all different, right? Landry's a possession type of guy, short passes but good yards after the catch. Wallace is a straight line runner that gets open on the deep balls, and then Matthews is the prototypical big wide receiver, outside wide receiver. So it's just interesting. I think that there's three different types there, so you really don't know which one they're bad at covering.
They suck at all of them.
They're bad at covering whoever the best guy is.
Yeah.
And for the Redskins, they're 31st against the rush. They've given up 6 rushing touchdowns and over 365 yards rushing. I'm okay. Crowell, I think we all have him up as a RB2 this week, and it's definitely a good matchup for him. But if I got Duke Johnson, I wouldn't be afraid to play him in my flex this week either.
Yeah, Crowell comes in at 14 overall for us, and Duke Johnson at 26. So both right in that range for startable running backs. So I would start him if you got him. Any other thoughts on the Redskins and Browns?
Nope.
I think the Browns are going to get their first win of the season.
Wow, Steve, who do you got?
I got the Washington football team.
We didn't go through the Titans and Texans. We didn't talk about doing this, so
Give me the
so I wasn't going to put you guys on the spot. You got the Texans, all right?
Yep.
Sal?
I'm going to say the Titans.
Wow. All right.
You're wrong.
You are wrong. So I'm going to go with the Texans. All right, so the Seahawks are going to play the Jets in New York at 1 p.m. Seahawks obviously 2-1. Jets are 1-2. Let's see some of the news here. Tyler Lockett was limited in practice again. Obviously, he had 0 targets in week 3 and 0 catches. It's hard to catch a ball when you don't get targeted, although he did play the game. They did take him off special teams and returns. So, clearly something was going on with the knee. Jimmy Graham did not practice today. I'm not sure if it was a rest day or if he tweaked something. There really wasn't a lot of information there, but those two are the two items to keep in mind as far as the Seahawks are concerned. I think the Jets, it looks like they're, Decker is a question mark for this week. Not sure if he's going to play. It doesn't sound good. And I know, Sal, you have him in a bunch of places. So if you have Decker, I would definitely keep your eye on the injury report and the participation for Friday and the weekend because he's a question mark. I think everyone else is probably going to play. It looks like Marshall's going to be back to health. So these teams run the ball a lot. It's pretty much easy to see what they do. Jets are 7th and Seahawks are 8th in rushing attempts. Jets are actually outproducing the Seahawks by a full yard per carry, which I thought was shocking when I saw that. The Jets come in at 4.5 yards per carry, whereas the Seahawks are at 3.5. Now, granted, a lot of that's pulled down by Rawls, who was struggling before he went out, and obviously Christian Michael has looked good. So we'll see what happens there. Neither team's really producing points. Seahawks are 28th and the Jets are 23rd in that category. And I personally think it's going to be a tough day for both, even though they're running the most. I think both Christian Michael and Matt Forte are going to struggle. Jets are 29 against the running backs in yards, and Seahawks are 26. So tough run defenses there. Sal, who do you think is going to be good in this matchup?
Yeah, it's tough. And what I jotted down before in prepping for this podcast is that the Jets are 4th in defending fantasy running backs. In the 3 games that they've played, they've given up 31 yards to Jeremy Hill, 59 to McCoy, and 75 to Ware last week on 20 carries. So I think Christine Michael, whatever this guy's name is in for a tough day. They've only given up 1 touchdown. So I don't think the guy I like the most for the Seahawks is probably Baldwin. I mean, Baldwin is he's a big time target. He's getting a ton of catches. So to me, he's a weekly start, and you definitely play him here. And then the Seahawks are defending wide receivers better than anybody in fantasy football. So Brandon Marshall with the Decker injury, you got to play him because you drafted him high and he's the type of guy that can produce unless you got really good depth. But they haven't given up more than 59 yards to a number one wide receiver in any one of the 3 games that they played. So this is going to be a defensive struggle. I expect Seattle to come out on top, but probably ending the Jets season at 1-3. But there's not a whole lot that I like in this game on either side.
Yeah, but there's also not too many options that you have. I mean, if you've got a Matt Forte, you're most likely starting him. If you've got a Christian Michael, it's probably, if you have him, you're probably dealing with some running back injuries. You probably are going to have to be starting him too. Brandon Marshall, I think we all have as a wide receiver too, so he's going to be started. And so I think you're expecting tough matchups for everybody, but you kind of are stuck going with the guys. And just have some lowered expectations. And Quincy Enunwa, again, last week it was him possibly filling in for Brandon Marshall. This week, if Eric Decker goes down, he is a possible name that could go in. He is still getting a lot of targets, even with everybody still playing. So he would be a good fill-in for that.
He's also not 100% healthy. All the Jet wide receivers are banged up. He's playing, but he's not 100% healthy.
He's gonna play. He's going to be
playing.
fine.
It's not a doubt that he's going to play. He's not healthy.
I don't think Eric Decker's going to play. I don't think he's going to be there.
It could be potentially serious. Like I said, keep an eye on that. Steve, who you got in this game?
Give me the Jets.
Wow, I'm going Seahawks myself. Bills will play at New England. I will be at this game at 1:00. And
Sal pick somebody?
Blah, blah. Yeah, I took Seattle.
Sal took Seattle, yes. The Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett both practice on a limited basis this week. There were some videos that came out, I guess, of Jimmy Garoppolo throwing some mid-range passes, which is good for a guy with a shoulder injury. So, but it's typical. The Patriots could very easily have sent him out there and forced him to do it against his will, just for the media. But Bills are hopeful that Sammy Watkins is going to travel with the team to play. I don't know if he actually will. No, probably not. The Buffalo Bills and Tyrod Taylor are dead last in passing yards. I went on my little mini rant about Tyrod Taylor in my miss section in the episode from earlier this week. So go check that out because I think I sounded miserable about it. He's only thrown 3 touchdown passes this year. The Patriots, meanwhile, behind LeGarrette Blount, first time I think I've seen in years, they lead the league in rushing. And they have 5 rushing touchdowns. It's amazing to me. I think you got one more week of that, and then you got to sell Blunt as high as you possibly can. So, and no pun intended there. Steve, what do you got on this game as far as your fantasy studs or duds or whatever you want to call them?
I mean, this is going to be very basic, but with what he did last week, some owners might be a little hesitant. I'm talking obviously about Rob Gronkowski. He gets a chance to right the wrong from last week, and I just got to say, he loves facing the Buffalo Bills. In 9 career games against Buffalo, he's got 46 receptions, which is the second most for him against any opponent, for 693 yards, which is the most against any opponent, and 10 touchdowns. He's got 10 touchdowns in 9 games. He's almost guaranteed to score a touchdown when he plays against Buffalo. You do not bench Gronk. Put him in your lineup. Let him help win your matchup for you this week after he potentially lost it for you last week. So that's all I got to say. You're starting Gronk, and honestly, you're starting Edelman, and that's almost it. And LaShawn McCoy. Obviously, LaShawn McCoy. Start LaShawn McCoy. Don't bench LaShawn McCoy. Not even for Melvin Gordon.
All right. We all get it, Steve. We all get it. Sal, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I started Jeremy Hill tonight, and I got to choose between LaShawn McCoy and Melvin Gordon, so I think I'm going to have to sit LaShawn McCoy.
Of course.
Yeah, Bills are 27th against wide receivers. In 3 games, they've given up 780 receiving yards. That's 260 yards a game to wide receivers. I'm starting Chris Hogan, Amendola. I'm seeing if they got retired guys that will come back out and play. I'm getting any Patriots wide receiver I can into this game, and I'm sitting all my Bills. Just sit them.
Don't
Sit 'em all.
don't sit LaShawn McCoy. Don't do it.
Oh, no, Sean McCoy. No, but outside of McCoy, really, if you're starting anybody in this offense, just quit. Your team sucks.
I think the Patriots miraculously go to 4-0 in this game. What about you guys?
Patriots.
I have the Bill Belichick's.
I'm just gonna pick the Patriots every game.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably a smart idea. The Panthers are 1-2, and they will meet the division-leading 2-1 Falcons in Atlanta at 1 p.m. Jonathan Stewart, news came out that his injury will continue, could be up to 4 weeks. So it looks like it's going to be the hamstring's going to keep him out for a little longer than expected. So keep an eye on that. If it's someone you were expecting, obviously he wasn't going to play for this game, but if he's someone you were hoping he's coming back soon, you may want to keep an eye on that or make some other plans. Devontae Freeman missed practice today with an illness. Julio Jones and Tevin Coleman were both limited because they have various injuries, as Julio Jones always does. The Falcons, number 1 in both total yards and points scored. I think that's great for them. Feather in their cap, but they've played the Bucs, Raiders, and Saints, which aren't exactly the best defenses in the league. I'm sure Sal has some stats on that, or at least some defensive stats about something in this game, right?
Well, I mean, just if you want defensive stats, how terrible are the Falcons?
There you go.
Last Thursday you weren't here, Kevin. I said I'd let you defend yourself because you keep telling me you think that the Falcons' defense is good and underrated, but they are 37th defending quarterbacks, 31st defending tight ends, and 27th or 28th defending running backs. There's nothing good about this defense.
I think maybe they were better last year.
They were good that year they played the Broncos in the Super Bowl. What year was that?
I have no defense. I think that, you know what, I will say this. I think part of the problem is I think they have some good pieces in the secondary. I think they get killed because they have absolutely no pass rush whatsoever.
And at the same time, what you said, their offense looks great because they haven't played great defenses. Well, they have been playing against great offenses as well. The Bucs, the Saints, and the Raiders all have great offenses. So
guess who's coming in this week? The highest scoring team in the NFL last year.
Oh, yeah, Carolina, they're pretty good.
And the Panthers are 12th in points and 7th in yards this year, so they're definitely on track this year to be in the tops of the league in the offense. Although Kelvin Benjamin, no catches at all last week. Cam Newton says that will not happen again. Steve, do you think that it will happen again?
I do not think that it'll happen again. I've got Kelvin Benjamin and Julio Jones ranked 6 and 5 respectively, so a little backwards there. I think that they are both going to have ginormous games. They are going to be targeted heavily. They are going to be targeted in the red zone. I think these guys are going to go back and forth in this game, and I think that they're going to be extremely, extremely high scoring and profitable for your fantasy team. But Kev, I wanted to ask you about Matt Ryan. You've got him. He's the number 1 quarterback heading into week 4 and you've got him ranked at 22 this week. Now, I'm sure that has a little bit to do with going against Carolina, but you think this is the start of his decline after that soft schedule?
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of a difference between the 3 teams that we talked about and the Carolina Panthers as far as defense, although the Panthers haven't been as good as they were last year. Obviously, no Josh Norman, but I think this is the week that we see the old Matt Ryan a little bit, and not that I think that he's going to fully regress to that for the rest of the season, but I think this is a tough matchup. I think he historically, I don't have the stats, but I think he historically plays Carolina poorly, and I think you can expect to see some regression for him in this game, even though I do like Julio Jones because it's Julio Jones.
I
guess you'd have to like him based on that because the Panthers are second in defending wide receivers, and the top wide receivers in the offenses they have faced Demaryius Thomas. I almost called him DeAndre Thomas. Demaryius Thomas, 4 for 48. Torrey Smith, I know, 3 for 55, and Stephon Diggs, 4 for 40. So no number 1 wide receiver has had success yet against the Panthers this season. And Kevin, you asked me earlier who I would have chose, and I said I would have chosen Fozzie Whitaker. The Falcons are 28th against the run this year, against running backs in fantasy, and they're giving up almost as much receiving to running backs as they are rushing. They've given up 5 receptions to Doug Martin, 6 to Latavius Murray, 4 to Mark Ingram, and 6 to Tavares Cadet. That was 10 in last week's game alone. So I'm expecting Cameron Payne to have a good game, but I'm expecting Fozzie Whitaker to catch a bunch of balls out of the backfield and actually have a flex-worthy game also.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you bring those kind of stats to the table. You make me look like a jerk in front of my wife, so I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna take the Panthers in this one. I think they pull out the win even in Atlanta and show the weakness of the Falcons finally playing a decent team. Sorry, Sal.
Yikes! I'll take the Panthers.
I'm not hurt, but when we beat you in the AFC Champ, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I can't even keep a straight face saying that.
Yeah,
Panthers, easy.
All right, so let's move along to the Raiders game. The 2-1 Raiders will play the surprisingly 3-0 Ravens in Baltimore at 1 p.m. Eastern. Raiders top third in the league in yards, passing yards, rushing yards, and points. But there's a clear committee going on at running back for the Raiders. In case you have missed it, I know a lot of people, a lot of different formats or podcasts and analysts have noted this, that Murray's losing touches, but he keeps scoring. So it's kind of masked by the fact that he's still putting up points in fantasy. The question I have for you guys is, a lot of people are saying that it's kind of false because he's losing touches, but he keeps scoring. I think he's going to keep scoring all year. I think he's going to be the guy that scores more of the touchdowns, and I think that does keep his value a little higher than most. But the touches do scare you. So what are you guys doing with Latavius Murray right now?
Sal, why don't you go ahead and talk about your boy?
I'd be selling him. I'd absolutely be selling him, and based on the fact that he's had decent point totals because of those touchdowns, they seem to be going to him early and then less late. I think he had 8 carries last week, and then each one of the rookies had 6. And Washington actually looked the best out of 3 last week, based on his runs. I'd be selling him. People still might grab him on the name value and what he's done in the first couple of weeks, but I do agree with you, Kevin, and I don't think anybody else will get the touches closer to the goal line. Maybe Alawale. They used the fullback. By the way, they cut Marcel Reese. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yep, I did.
Are you sad?
Boy. Yeah, man, it's like that was my binky. You guys talk about binkies all the time. That was my binky. But Alawale has been doing a good job for them, so they've been using him. But even for that matter, even he's been factored into the offense. So it's really a fourth mouth being fed in that backfield. So if you could move him, and if you could move him between now and Sunday, I would do it.
All right, so Latavius Murray, we've got him ranked 30th overall for running backs, so it's more of a flex spot. So I've got some wide receivers here that I want to ask you guys. Who would you rather start between Latavius Murray and these guys? So, Kev, who would you start, Latavius Murray or Tyrell Williams?
Ooh, I would probably go Tyrell Williams.
Sal?
Murray.
All right, Sal, Murray or Golden Tate?
I think the Golden Tate's going to have a good game this week. They've come out and said that they're going to look to get him more involved. He needs to be more involved. So I'm going to say Golden Tate.
All right, Kev.
I'm going to say...
But the man thinks.
Yes. Yeah, sorry. Just give me a minute. I was thinking. I'm going to say...
Can you ponder out loud, please?
I'm going to say Golden Tate. I'm going to go with Sal.
All right. Latavius Murray or John Brown?
Ooh, I like John Brown this week. I think he turns it around a little bit, so I'm going to say John Brown.
Sal?
I don't disagree with Kevin. I think he turns it around, but I think if I were to look at my rankings, which I never open during this thing, I think I have him down much lower in my wide receiver ranking. So I'm going to say Latavius Murray.
All right, and last one, Latavius Murray or Michael Crabtree?
Michael Crabtree.
Kev?
Yeah, I have Crabtree, definitely.
All right. Yeah, I've got the running backs in this game on both sides of the ball. Flex plays at best for me this week. Wide receivers for the Raiders, you're going to start both of them. Crabtree's definitely startable. Crabtree's doing better than Amari Cooper so far this year.
Yeah, he's about 5 or 6 spots higher than him in the overall rankings.
Yep, so, you're starting both of those guys. Derek Carr's another good start. So, and then Joe Flacco as a potential streamer. You know how awesome that Raiders defense has been.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I agree.
Because people talked about streaming him last week against the Jags, who've been very generous, and he put up an 11.7, I think. Joe Flacco is bad for fantasy business. Just stay away.
He will always screw you on in fantasy because the games you think he's going to do well, he doesn't, and then when you think he's going to suck, he puts up like 30 points. He's unbelievably annoying to own.
But I would start Mike Wallace in this game. Raiders have given up 5 touchdowns to wide receivers, but they're 32nd in defending wide receivers in fantasy. So Mike Wallace, and probably for that matter, Steve Smith, if I need to get him in a flex, who heated up last week, 8 catches, a lot of targets, and looked a little spry. I'm not shying away from the wide receivers.
Stay away from the running backs, as Steve mentioned. Even if Kenneth Dixon does play in this game, which he doesn't look like he's going to, but even if he did, you want to stay away. It's probably one more week before you see him, or maybe a couple weeks before you feel comfortable seeing him. But if he's still, I know, if he's still out there, grab him.
Yes.
All right, who do you guys got? Raiders or Ravens? Go.
Raiders.
I'm going to take the Ravens to go 4-0 and shock the world here.
They are a pile of steaming crap, you son of
a... All right, the Lions are 1-2. They will play the Bears at 0-3, 1 p.m. Eastern in Chicago. The Lions are 4th overall in yards. They're 3rd in passing yards. They're 5th overall in points. And meanwhile, the Bears are just about bad at everything. They can't score. They can't defend. They are 30th in points, 27th in yards. I think Hoyer actually looked better than Cutler has, which is impressive. I think it was a big boom for I'm blanking on his name here, the tight end. Miller, yes, thank you. And Zach Miller, and I think that's going to continue this week. Hopefully he's continuing on with his scoring and the targets that he gets. So he's a guy that I like from the Bears, and I think from the Lions side of the things, you're going to start just about everyone you can possibly start.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially a couple running backs. The last game we talked about, the running backs were kind of gross, and this one I'm actually excited to see what they are going to be doing. You had Jeremy Langford get hurt, so you got Jordan Howard coming in this week. He is looking to see a lot of work on Sunday. You've got Kadeem Carey still not practicing as of today, so he is just in line to get a ton of volume. And then you've heard reports coming out of Detroit that Dwayne Washington should be getting some more looks in the offense this week. He looked like the better all-around running back than Theo Riddick last week in terms of just running the ball. Theo Riddick obviously has got that pass-catching skill set. But I'm excited to see what these two running backs do, especially Dwayne Washington. He's got that much easier matchup. The Lions' defensive front seven is actually pretty stiff, so Jordan Howard's going to might have a rough time. But those are the guys that I'm going to be looking at. I did want to express my sorrow for Alshon Jeffrey and his STIs that popped up on the injury report today.
Soft tissue issues.
That was very, very demoralizing. It was just, it was just a matter of time. I actually feel like it's a win making it to week 4 until we had to deal with one of those. So, but definitely keep that in mind.
Looks like he's going to play, though, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I don't think they're worried about him missing any time, but just Alshon Jeffrey and hamstring is just, it's scary. It's terrifying. You have small children in your home, Kev. You know what that's like.
I don't know why Alshon Jeffrey's hamstrings are in my home with my children, but sure.
Well, that's a different question for a different time.
It certainly is. I would just like to note that we do have Theo Riddick at 19, Jordan Howard at 20 in our rankings, and Dwayne Washington at 34. And we're all pretty even on where we feel those guys will end up. So all to Steve's point, all startable.
So, also to Steve's point, I think the Lions will try to run the ball more this week to slow the game down because just as high powered as their offense is, they give up points and yardage the same way. So I think that they need to get a win. They need to slow the game down. And two teams playing the Bears this year, the Texans ran Lamar Miller 28 times, and the Cowboys ran Ezekiel Elliott 30 times. So if they go off of that game plan, then I think you're right. Washington will see nearly 20 touches this week on the ground. On the other side, the Lions have given up 4 touchdown games twice already in 3 games this year. So talk about a streaming option. I agree with Kevin. Brian Hoyer, if he's playing, I'm not streaming Jay Cutler if he plays. That should tell you how I feel about that. If Hoyer's the quarterback here and I need a streaming quarterback, that's my stream of the week against an offense that has given up 10 touchdowns to quarterbacks already in 3 games. And drop Mariota. Did I say that Mariota? Why have Mariota on here? Oh, I know why. Because they gave up 2 touchdowns to Mariota. Even sucky Mariota, who we talked about earlier, they gave up 2 to him. So.
All right, the Bears will lose again in this one and go to 0-4 in my opinion. You guys?
Yeah, Give me the Bears. Give me the Bears.
Wow.
Give me the Bears.
Wow. All right, they're in contention for the number 1 overall pick next year. Just keep that in mind.
I will.
All right, the Broncos are playing the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, 4:00 games. We have finally made it to the 4:00 games. And the real question, the only question I have for you, Steve, will the Buccaneers make Trevor Siemian continue to look like a good quarterback?
Yeah, I think that they will. Trevor Siemian seems to be, he seems to feel very comfortable with the offense. Being another road game, I think that they are going to definitely try and run the ball a lot. I think that C.J. Anderson's due for a big bounce back game. The Bucs are 26th against the run and have given up 3 touchdowns to running backs already. So I think that he's due for a big game, and I think that Siemian just has the skill set that he's able to throw the ball. The Buccaneers defense, they gave up over 30 points to the Rams last week. So, their defense is not anything that's really going to scare you. Denver defense, on the other hand, might scare you. If you had any thoughts of sitting Mike Evans, let us tell you again, do not ever sit Mike Evans. You saw what happened when he played against Arizona. He just gets targets all day long. He's scored a touchdown in every single game. Mike Evans is a locked-in every week starter, regardless of the matchup, so you've got to start him. And, Jameis Winston, you're probably going to have to he's going to be taking a seat. Even though you're starting Mike Evans, Jameis Winston you've seen him struggle against those tougher defenses in terms of his fantasy numbers. So he was Tampa
Bay has thrown the ball 142 times.
I know, it's amazing. It's crazy.
He has 891 yards and 8 touchdowns. He also has thrown 6 picks, so I think you're going to see some touchdowns and some picks here, even despite Denver's defense. So I agree with you. He's probably not a top option, but you may get some junk time here.
The Buccaneers are terrible at defending wide receivers. They're 30th against wide receivers in all 3 games. The 2 wide receivers have each gotten double-digit fantasy points for the team that they're playing against. So Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas are both good starts this week. And on the other side, a name that a lot of people are high on out of Tampa Bay, Adam Humphries. I know you probably grabbed him off the waivers this week and you think it's do not play him. The second wide receivers, don't play him. Denver's 3rd against wide receivers. And in the first game this year, they gave up 6 catches to Benjamin, then 1 catch to the other wide receivers. In the second game, the same thing, only 1 catch to each one of the secondary wide receivers, and then 2 last week to one of the secondary wide receivers. It doesn't happen against Denver. So start Evans, because if you don't know that by now, just stop it already. And that's it. Nobody else. Vincent Jackson, get on the bench, sir.
I got the Broncos in this one.
Give me the Broncos, 4-0. Who'd have thunk it?
Probably you, Broncos.
All right. The Los Angeles Rams travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals at 4:25. Sal, I'm going to ask you this question. What is wrong with Carson Palmer?
I think that he's trying to do too much. He's got good weapons. He's got a good young running back, and he just needs to stop forcing. It was ugly, embarrassing last week, forcing the ball. I really don't think it chalks up to anything more than that. He's trying to do too much.
So Michael Floyd's in the concussion protocol this week, but he did practice. John Brown looks like he's getting healthier. Is this the week we finally see that? And Larry Fitzgerald's just awesome. So is this the week we see the full complement of wide receivers for the Cardinals? And does that help them get their passing game back on track?
No, I said, here's what I have written down for this game. Ready? Sit your Rams, start your Cardinals. That's it. I think that this is going to be very similar to when the Cardinals played Tampa 2 weeks ago, and they're going to play pissed off, angry, and just absolutely light it up. I'm not starting Michael Floyd, however.
That's exactly what I said. I said I think the Cardinals are going to be pissed in this game and try and score 100 points. So I feel the same way. And I think it's interesting to see John Brown. You saw last week, he got 11 targets, the same as Michael Floyd. So we might be starting to see the switch there where John Brown is getting back into game form and he's able to take over the production that we were used to seeing him last season.
Agreed. You're obviously starting Gurley if you have him. I think you have to, and I think he'll probably be fine. But I agree with you guys. That's probably about it for the Rams there. I'm taking the Cardinals, just like Sal is. Steve, I'm assuming you agree.
Yep.
Saints at Chargers, 4:25 Eastern. I don't have too much on this game because I think you're going to start every single player that you can possibly get.
Yeah, I mean, the defenses aren't scaring me away from any of these potential matchups. I know Drew Brees sometimes when he leaves the Superdome can be a little bit scary, but in 2 games against the Chargers, he's got 7 touchdowns and only 1 interception. So I think he enjoys reminding the fans of San Diego what they let get away. So I've got him ranked as I believe I've got him as my quarterback 1 this week, and I think that he's going to be in for a big game there. And just Melvin Gordon, obviously, is you saw what the Atlanta running backs were able to do against that Saints defense last week. Melvin Gordon should be in for a huge week as well.
You have him at number 1. Steve, Sal has him at number 2, and I have Drew Brees at number 3.
Melvin Gordon comes Drew this week. I know he got touchdowns, and the touchdowns are carrying him. He needs more yardage.
He does need more yardage. But he has looked good. I think he looks good as a runner, and the touchdowns are certainly helping. Willie Snead, again, a guy to keep in mind on the injury report. Not sure if he's going to play or not. He's practicing in a limited basis, so definitely keep your eye on that. As far as the injuries are concerned, I think that's it. Sal, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, I would just say this about the Saints. They're actually 15th against quarterbacks right now. They're right in the middle of the pack. They've only given up 3 touchdown passes. They gave up 1 to Derek Carr, none to Eli Manning, and 2 last week to Matt Ryan. So they're not, people are not getting off on them in the passing game like they have in the past. So don't expect Rivers to be, a locked-in top 5 quarterback this week, which I think a lot of people have him as. And San Diego is bad against quarterbacks, 29th. And they're giving up 27 receptions to running back. So I mentioned Ingram and Cadet had big games receiving the ball last week. These are definitely both guys are worthy of starting. Ingram, I believe all of us have him up in the top 5 this week, and top 5 in running backs. And Cadet is flex worthy if you are in a deeper league.
I will say this, while they haven't given up too many touchdowns through the air, they have given up 6 touchdowns on the ground, the Saints, that is. So we have Melvin Gordon and Mark Ingram 3 and 4 respectively, and they sort of flip-flop between the 3 of us, I should say. So definitely get your players in on this one. You're going to be happy you did. This is fantasy goodness all around. I am taking the Saints to get off the schneid. What about you, Steve?
Give me the Chargers.
Sadly, I think because it's in San Diego, the Chargers are going to win this game.
All right. The Cowboys take on the 49ers in what used to be a classic battle.
People used to enjoy this game.
This game used to be something people looked forward to. It is not anymore. This game's in San Francisco. Obviously, the big news today or this week is all centered around Des Bryant with the Cowboys. Looks like he's got a fractured tibia plateau bone or something along those lines. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
That's correct.
Look, it doesn't look like he's going to play. It looks like he's going to miss this week. He could miss multiple weeks. I don't know, even if he is going to play, was going to play somehow, I don't know how much you can expect out of him. And it would have been a sweet matchup otherwise. So, I don't know. Who are you looking at in this game, Steve?
Well, yeah, with no Des Bryant, I don't think that he's going to play. I think Dallas would be incredibly foolish to even let him dress for this game. Just keep him out at least a week. I know he did come back in after he injured his leg, so I mean, it is a matter of pain tolerance. But I just think that they can go a week and let it get right for another week. Cole Beasley is the guy that you're going to be wanting to get in his place. He sees a lot of volume for these first few weeks, even as it is. So with Des Bryant not on the field, you can only imagine that he's going to see a little bit more. He's only owned in 33% of ESPN leagues. So if you absolutely need a wide receiver, if Des was kind of your last resort and you need to fill him with somebody, then Cole Beasley is definitely a guy that you're going to want to use there. And for the 49ers, Carlos Hyde is the only guy that you can trust. And at this point, I mean, he's a ticking time bomb in and of itself. He's looked very good this season so far. He did get some garbage time touchdowns in Carolina, but those points count as well. So he's running back 7, I believe, in a 0.5 PPR. So he's definitely a guy that you're rolling out there each week. But other than that, it's going to be, the usual suspects. You got Cole Beasley, Jason Witten should see some increased volume, and then you've got Carlos Hyde on the San Francisco side of the ball. Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, you're going to put in there.
Terrence Williams and Bryce Butler are guys in deeper leagues on the Dallas side who may be filling in for Dez. And Sal, I know your specialty is the defensive stats. I'm hoping you have some reason to support my Hyde ranking because I'm pretty high on him this week.
So you have Hyde ranked pretty high, huh?
Yep.
I don't look at your.
Tell me
rankings,
why.
To be honest with you. I'm just kidding. Well, Dallas is they're in the lower part of. I guess they're not terrible. They're not great at defending the run this year. They've given up 75 yards to Rashad Jennings. They've given up 61 yards to Matt Jones. They haven't given up a real big game yet. They're kind of just, even. Here's what I'm saying about Hyde. You should have traded him as soon as he got 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was your shot. Once he sucks, you're going to be stuck with him.
I can't argue with that there. I think you might have another shot because I do think he has a pretty good game in this one. So that's just my own personal feeling. Any other thoughts on this game, Sal?
Yeah, I really don't. It scares me what's going on over there with Dez. I have him in a lot of places. I took the leap, figuring he'd be healed up, and it bit me. It's hurting me in a lot of places. Owie, owie, owie. Then I really don't want anybody on my roster from San Francisco. I'm serious when I say I wrote that in my article, my takeaway article on Monday morning. That was the game to get rid of Hyde because this is just it's not a matter of talent, in my opinion, with the guy. It's just a bad environment.
Keep an eye on 49ers and how bad Blaine Gabbert is because Colin Kaepernick, say what you want about him, he's going to start for this team eventually, and I think he is a good fit in the Chip Kelly offense. He could increase the value of some of the guys, including Hyde. So just keep an eye on that. But for right now, I think you're right, Sal. I think they're basically poison on your roster, with the exception of Hyde. So, all right, I'm going to take the Cowboys here, even without Des Bryant.
Cowboys.
Yeah, make it a sweep.
All right, the Chiefs will play the Steelers in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football at 8:30. Look, I think the Chiefs are a very good defensive team. I think Marcus Peters is phenomenal as a cornerback, but I don't think it matters because Antonio Brown is just better than everyone else at football. I expect the Steelers to get theirs in this. I expect to see a lot of Lev Bell in this. And welcome back, Le'Veon Bell.
Yes.
I think we're all excited to see him and it seems like they're going to try and get him.
I'm not excited.
Because you're playing against him?
Oh, I'm facing him everywhere, it feels
no,
like. No,
I don't think I'm facing him anywhere. I just don't own him anywhere either.
Yeah, well, I own him in a couple places. Very happy to have made the investment and see him coming back. So any thoughts on this game other than that, Steve? We'll start with Steve.
Honestly, not really. Le'Veon Bell is what I'm most excited about this game. I want to see what he looks like coming back. I want to see how the splits go between Bell and D'Angelo Williams. We know what happened when Bell came back last year. D'Angelo Williams basically fell off the face of the earth. So it'll be interesting to see how they get used. We saw 2 different reports coming out this week. One saying that they're going to use Bell early and often and just, see everything that he's got. And then I believe it was Ben Roethlisberger said something about maybe lining Bell up as a receiver and having D'Angelo Williams in the backfield. So it'll just be interesting to see how they go about using both of these guys. And then for the Chiefs, it's looking like there's going to be no Jamal Charles yet again. So you get Spencer Ware for another week. He's a low-end running back 1 for the Falafel ranks, so roll him out there. He was basically a half an inch away from scoring a touchdown last week and making that a great week for him. So I roll him back out there again, and then in this game, you're starting the usual guys. The Chiefs defense went off last week. Those 6 interceptions did help. I would be a little worrisome starting them again this week.
Let me tell you who else isn't probably going to play in this game. Sharkhandrick West. So Spencer Ware is going to have a better game than Le'Veon Bell in this game. The Steelers are 29th against running backs.
Wow.
They give up 201 yards rushing, but 290 yards receiving to running backs. Spencer Ware is going to absolutely ball out in this game. All you non-believers, I'm going to be standing here next week when Jamal Charles is still whining about a little knee issue and keep telling you to stop getting rid of Ware and hold on to him.
I would like to make some kind of bet with you right now that he is going to outscore Le'Veon Bell in fantasy.
Whatever the bet you want to make, I already have a profile bet that I'm going to probably lose this week, so we'll have to do something else. But I will absolutely take Spencer Ware to outscore. And I think I have Bell ahead of my ranks, but when I saw that West wasn't going to play also, put him up, baby.
Wow. All right, we'll see. I am not that high on Ware. Obviously I ranked him thinking that even Jamal Charles was going to play, which it doesn't look like he's going to. And with West out, it's even more. I would have bumped him up. So obviously my rank should change there, but I certainly do not think he's going to outproduce Lev Bell. All right. So but game wise, I think I'm taking the Steelers in this one.
Steelers.
Where are they playing?
Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh.
I'm going to take Kansas. I'll take the Steelers.
All right, Monday Night Football, Giants at Vikings. The Vikings defense, another one of those defenses that put up crazy points last week and have looked phenomenal this year. I think that they're going to continue to look phenomenal. That defense is the real deal, and given how their offense is, and without Adrian Peterson, they're going to have to be, because I think they're going to be in a lot of low-scoring games across the board. The Giants are a great offense and have been a very solid defense, but I don't think they're going to look too great in this one. I think you're starting Odell Beckham, obviously, and I would not go anywhere near the running back mess that's going on there. I know a lot of people are excited about Orleans Darkwa for some reason, and obviously Paul Perkins might get some run, but I think everyone's just going to get a shot in this one. So what do you think, Sal? I know you've been on these Giant running backs. You've been keeping an eye on them pretty closely this year. So what are your thoughts there?
Luckily, I don't own any of them anywhere because it has become a bit of a mess. I think you're going to get Darkwa and Bobby Rainey this week. Perkins maybe starts to get some touches. Like I said, I think in the show earlier this week that I think Perkins is a long shot stash for the end of your bench. Right now, I think it's Darkwa as the lead dog mixed in with Bobby Rainey. But, what I'm looking to see interesting, and I've been all over that Vikes defense also, is you got 3 guys that have been fantasy productive at wide receiver for the Giants so far this year. The Vikings have not given up more than 76 yards to any one wide receiver and 1 total touchdown. I don't know who the one wide receiver is going to be that's going to be successful this week, but all 3 of them will not be successful in this game.
I've got this game marked down as a trap game for Minnesota. I think they're going to lose. I think that this Minnesota defense, and very rightly so, has been talked up a very, 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 very big amount.
Whoa, did you have to meet a certain quota of words?
No, I kind of just got stuck there for a second, and so I couldn't stop.
Smacked you right in the back of the head next time.
Well, that's why we need to be doing this podcast live, but, distances between us. Yeah.
Oceans apart.
Please don't. Please don't. We don't have time for singing.
Like I said, their defense has been great, and they've been just after that game last week against the Panthers and what they did to Cam Newton, it really showed the country what they are capable of. And then you're going to have them on prime time in Monday night. Eli he does well in those situations. I just think I've got it written down as a trap game. I think the Giants come in there and are able to score some points. I think the Giants come in and win that game. So I'm starting Odell Beckham. Obviously, you don't sit him, but I'm also going to start Sterling Shepard where I got him.
Shocker.
And Yeah, well, he's right around wide receiver 12. You can't really blame anyone for wanting to start him every single week.
I don't even think that what you're saying is that crazy, Steve, because when I look at this and I say to myself, this will be a low scoring game, usually when we do that, it ends up being a high scoring game and vice versa. One other thing I'll just point out is the Giants are second versus running backs. They've given up an average of 11.6 points a game to running backs total. So look elsewhere from Asiata and McKinnon this week. Asiata would be touchdown dependent anyway. And as a if that's what you're giving up total, and this is a two-headed backfield, I'm not liking it.
Not to mention the Minnesota Vikings are dead last in yards per attempt on the ground.
Yikes.
So definitely look at 2.1, by the way. So not even passable at all. Definitely look elsewhere for your running backs. And I think that's it for us. I think we've gone through all the games. Oh, Sal, who do you got in this game? Steve obviously took the Giants.
Correct.
Yeah, it's you know what? He's convinced me a little bit. I'm gonna take the Giants also. Good job, Steve.
Hey, thanks.
I will take the Vikings myself. That about does it for the show. We were gonna do some bold predictions, but you guys got anything real quick? I know Steve Sal already did his. He's him with his Spencer Ware outscoring Lev Bell. I think that counts.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive there. Nope. I got nothing. I got nothing. So
All right. You are very unbold. And
yeah.
that makes sense.
It's very
Your
fitting.
bold prediction should be that you're going to beat me in falafel this week.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I'm going to go with Charles Sims as a top 5 running back this week against Denver. So how about that? How's that for bold?
That works.
Yeah. That about does it for tonight. Steve, why don't you get to some final thoughts?
Okay, normally my whole entire spiel here is about where you can find us on social media. If you go to any social media site and you search for Falafel House, you will find us there. But what I'm going to do instead, since we forgot to do this at the beginning of the show, is going to announce that we are changing our release schedule starting next week. We are going to change that and start releasing shows on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So no longer a Tuesday release. We are going to be adding a third show. And so now you can get all of your fantastic falafel fantasy football advice 3 days a week. So that's all I've got. Sal, what do you got?
I just need you to say that again so I can write it down because I want to make sure I'm here next week for that.
You're working.
So that was Monday. No, I got very little to say to you people out there tonight except AJ Green is back, baby.
He was never good.
Kevin.
AJ Green is good at football. I just like to remind everyone that we love reviews. So if you could review us on wherever you get your podcast, that would be great. Also, make sure you check out falafelhouse.com and give us some feedback on the website as well. That about does it for us because I think Steve's going to shoot me later because we went over on our time.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry
we're
for
way
the long
done.
podcast. Thank you for everyone for sticking around. And until next time, Steve, hit the button.